Okay, so everyone's always talking about like polls and pundits, right, during election season.
Yeah.
With like who's up, who's down, what are the chances,
Right. All the horse race coverage.
Exactly.
Huh.
But what if I told you there was this historian, Allan Lichtman,
Uh-huh.
and he's developed this system for predicting U.S. presidential elections, and it's been like crazy accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
It is. So we have, you guys sent us a bunch of articles about this. So
Yeah.
what is the secret sauce here? Like, is this some crazy complicated algorithm?
I mean, it's surprisingly straightforward when you hear about it the first time.
Okay.
But I think the brilliance of it is that it focuses on something that we often miss. We get so caught up in the personalities and the campaigns and, the day-to-day, all that kind of stuff.
The news cycle,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Lichtman's method kind of zooms out
Okay.
and looks at the bigger picture, which is the performance of the incumbent party.
So instead of trying to predict the future, it's almost more about analyzing the present,
Yes.
like the political landscape
Yeah,
as it stands.
it's like a political report card for the party holding the presidency.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So are they in a strong position to win another term, or are there like some cracks in their foundation?
I like it. Okay, so how does this report card actually work?
Yeah.
Break it down for me. What are these 13 keys?
So imagine 13 statements,
Okay.
and each of them focuses on a different aspect of the incumbent party's performance. So things like the midterm election results, the state of the economy, social unrest scandals, even policy changes.
Wait, scandals matter?
They can.
So, like, are we talking like Watergate level stuff?
Well, it can be a factor, but it's not always a deal breaker.
Okay.
So each of these keys gets assigned a true or false value based on, historical data. And the more false keys that the incumbent party racks up,
Yeah.
the less likely they are to hold on to the White House.
So it's like a game of political Jenga.
Oh, I like that.
You pull out too many wrong pieces and the whole thing comes crashing down.
I love that analogy. That's great. Yeah.
So, okay, so 6 strikes and you're out.
Pretty much, yeah. So if the incumbent party gets 6 or more false keys,
Okay.
Lichtman's system predicts they'll lose the election.
Okay, so how accurate is this thing, really?
So, well, that's what's so fascinating about Allan Lichtman
Yeah.
and his system.
Yeah.
It's correctly predicted the winner of 9 out of the last 10 presidential elections.
9 out of 10, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So only one miss in decades.
Right.
Which one did he get wrong?
So the only miss was the incredibly close and controversial 2000 election between George W. Bush and Al Gore.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, talk about a
It's a
nail-biter.
roller coaster.
That went down to the wire, and was ultimately decided by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I guess even the most sophisticated system can't account for like hanging chads and
Right.
legal battles and all that.
Exactly.
But still, 9 out of 10, that's seriously impressive. So what stands out to you about these 13 keys? Like,
You know what I think is so interesting about them is it really challenges our assumptions about elections. We tend to get so caught up in the personalities and the daily headlines and all of that, the back and forth,
right?
that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And Lichtman's method kind of forces us to zoom out and consider those broader historical patterns that often determine election outcomes.
So it's like he's found a way to cut through all that noise
Yeah,
and really get to the heart of what really matters to voters.
I think so.
Almost like a political x-ray, revealing the underlying dynamics at play.
Absolutely. And the thing is, he developed the system back in 1981,
But-
collaborating with a Russian geophysicist.
Wait, a geophysicist?
Yeah.
What does studying the Earth had to do with predicting American elections?
It's a great story.
Okay.
So they were both fascinated by finding patterns and predictability in seemingly chaotic systems. And they believed that the same mathematical principles used to understand earthquakes
Wow.
could be applied to the complexities of Austrian politics.
That's thinking outside the box.
It is.
Okay, so they teamed up, they created this system,
Yeah,
and it's essentially stood the test of time.
pretty much.
Pretty incredible.
It is.
Okay, so now I'm really curious to unpack these 13 keys.
Okay.
Can you walk us through some of the most intriguing ones?
Yeah, let's do it. And maybe you can even try to guess whether they were true or false in past elections.
Oh, fun. Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Hit me with the key.
Okay.
Let's see if I can crack this code.
All right. So how about key #1?
Okay.
The midterm election results.
Okay.
So this looks at whether the incumbent party gained or lost seats in Congress.
Hmm.
And, those midterm elections are like a temperature check on the public's mood,
Yeah.
halfway through a president's term.
It's like a mini referendum
Right.
on the president's party. Like,
Exactly.
so if they lose a bunch of seats,
Yeah.
that's a bad sign.
It suggests a shift in the political winds.
Yeah.
Maybe some dissatisfaction brewing among the voters.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's test it out.
All right.
Think back to the 2020 election.
Okay.
Biden versus Trump.
Huh?
What happened in the midterms before that?
So in the 2018 midterms,
Yeah.
the Democrats actually gained a significant number of seats in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
Like a whopping 40 seats.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's got to sting.
For the incumbent party.
Yeah, so that would be a false for key #1.
You got it.
Okay.
Right off the bat, a strike against the incumbent party, which in this case was the Republicans.
Yeah.
With Trump at the helm.
Okay. All right. One key down 12 to go.
All right.
What's another one that you find particularly interesting?
Let's talk about key #5.
Okay.
The state of the economy.
Okay.
This one's a classic.
Yeah.
It looks at the overall health of the economy during the incumbent party's term.
Uh-huh.
The old saying, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah. Voters tend to care about their wallets.
They do.
If the economy is doing well, they're more likely to stick with the status quo.
Exactly. But here's where it gets nuanced.
Okay.
Lichtman's system doesn't just look at the snapshot of the economy, right before the election.
Uh-huh.
It considers the longer-term trends.
Yeah.
And that's actually where key #6 comes in.
Okay.
Long-term economic growth compared to previous terms.
So even if the economy seems okay on the surface, if the long-term growth isn't strong,
Right.
that could still hurt the incumbent party.
Precisely. So let's go back to 2020 again.
Okay.
While the U.S. economy was doing, relatively well leading up to the election,
Yeah.
the long-term growth trends weren't as robust as they had been under previous administrations.
So it's not just about whether people have jobs.
Right.
It's about whether the economy is growing and improving over time.
You nailed it.
Okay.
And that nuance, I think, is what makes Lichtman's system so insightful. It's not just about capturing those surface-level trends. It's digging a little deeper
Yeah.
into the underlying economic realities.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these keys work together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like pieces of a puzzle.
It is, yeah.
Okay, give me one more.
Okay.
A key that's maybe a little less obvious.
All right, how about key #7?
Okay.
Major policy changes enacted by the incumbent party.
Hmm.
So think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big sweeping changes,
Yeah?
even if well-intentioned, can sometimes backfire.
Yeah. Rocking the boat too much can alienate voters,
Absolutely.
especially if they feel like things are changing too fast.
Right, and in the case of the 2020 election, the Trump administration made some significant policy shifts.
Yeah.
From tax cuts to trade wars to immigration policies.
Yeah, those were definitely attention-grabbing moves.
Definitely.
So that would be a false on key #7.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, those major policy changes, while appealing to some, likely also created some uncertainty and pushback,
Right.
among others.
Wow, I'm really seeing how this system works now. It's like a political detective story.
It is, yeah.
Piecing together all these clues
Mm.
to understand what drives election outcomes.
And here's the thing. This system developed decades ago.
Yeah.
Is still relevant today.
Uh-huh.
It reveals something, I think, fundamental about American politics. The forces that shape voters' decisions, regardless of the specific candidates or issues of the day.
So it's not just about who's got the snappiest slogans or the most viral tweets.
I mean, those things might grab headlines,
Right.
but they don't necessarily determine the outcome of an election.
It's about the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the performance of the party in power, the state of the nation,
Right.
the underlying trends that shape voters' perceptions and anxieties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I think makes Lichtman's system so fascinating.
Yeah.
It forces us to look beyond the surface and consider those deeper currents that often determine who wins and who loses the White House.
Okay, this has been an incredible deep dive into the past.
Yeah.
But I can't help but wonder, can we use these 13 keys
Oh, absolutely.
to understand what's happening in the current election?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Let's fast forward to the present and see how this system applies to the election that's unfolding right now.
Let's do it.
So we've got our political decoder rings ready.
Yeah.
Let's apply these 13 keys to the current election.
It's like we're time travelers,
Yeah.
peering into the future, armed with historical knowledge.
I like it.
But we have to remember that we're still in the midst of this election.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
Right, so some of these keys are still in play.
Okay, so let's start with key #1,
Okay.
the midterm results. How did the incumbent party do in those recent elections?
So it was a little bit of a mixed bag.
Okay.
The Democrats, the incumbent party,
Right.
they managed to hold on to their slim majority in the Senate,
Uh-huh.
but the House flipped to Republican control.
Yeah, those races were like super close, I remember.
They were.
So how does that translate in terms of true or false for key #1?
You know, it's a bit of a gray area, to be honest. Holding the Senate is a positive for the Democrats.
Right.
But losing the House definitely suggests some level of voter dissatisfaction.
So key #1 is a bit of a toss-up for now,
I think so, yeah.
which makes sense given how divided Congress is.
Right.
What about the economy? How's that playing into this election?
Yeah, the economy key #5 is always a crucial factor.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've seen some volatility in recent months,
Yeah.
and inflation has been a major concern for a lot of voters.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. I feel it every time I go to the grocery store.
Exactly, and how voters perceive the economy, whether they feel like things are heading in the right direction,
Yeah.
you know, that will likely have a significant impact on their choices at the ballot box.
So key #5 is still up in the air, a potential wild card in this election.
I think so.
What about key #7?
All right.
Those major policy changes.
Yeah.
Has the current administration made any bold moves that could, like, swing things one way or the other?
You know, there have definitely been some significant policy initiatives, particularly in areas like climate change and healthcare.
Yeah.
You know, these are hot-button issues
For sure.
that tend to mobilize voters on both sides.
Right. Those policies have been front and center in the debates and the campaign ads and all that.
Absolutely, and how those policies are ultimately perceived,
Yeah.
whether they're seen as successful or overreaching, that could influence how people vote.
It's like we're watching a political thriller unfold in real time.
It is. It is.
Every twist and turn could lead to a different outcome, but beyond predicting the winner.
Right.
What do these keys reveal about, like, the deeper dynamics of this election?
You know, that's what I think is so fascinating about this.
Yeah.
You know, the 13 keys, they offer a glimpse into the electorate's mood.
Hmm.
You know, their hopes, their fears, their anxieties. It's like taking the pulse of the nation.
So by analyzing these keys, we're not just trying to figure out who's going to win.
Right.
We're also understanding, like, why.
Oh.
What's driving the electorate's decisions?
Precisely. You know, we can see what issues are resonating, what anxieties are bubbling to the surface.
Yeah.
It helps us understand, I think, the forces shaping not only the political landscape, but also the lives of everyday Americans.
It's amazing to think that this system created decades ago
Right.
can still provide such a valuable insights into modern elections.
You know, it speaks to the enduring power of understanding history
Yeah.
and recognizing those cyclical patterns that
Right.
shape our political system. And, you know, as we watch the rest of this election unfold, I think it's worth remembering that there are these deeper forces at play, you know,
Right.
these historical echoes that often influence the course of events.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the 13 keys, I'm left with a thought-provoking question for you and for our listeners.
Okay.
If this system's so insightful, if it can truly illuminate the underlying forces shaping American politics, does that mean elections are more predictable than we think? Or are there always those wild cards, those unpredictable events that can defy even the most meticulous analysis?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is.
And it's something I think to ponder as you watch, you know, the next chapter of this election unfold. And,
Yeah.
you know, as you consider how these forces shape not only the political landscape, but also our own lives.
So fascinating food for thought. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me.